everybody, I'm Shauna Benson from OCALI's Teaching Diverse Learner Center, and today on our how-to tips and tricks, we're going to talk a little bit about mathematics and something that maybe a little bit daunting, division. So we're going to start off by setting the stage for how you may want to talk through the subject of division in mathematics, and then actually I'll show some examples of how you can break it down into the smallest skills and help students really see the process of division as opposed to just having a division problem on the board where we're, dividing such and such number by another number. The other piece that I'm going to mention about this particular video is that we're using division in the context of money. And we're going to apply a scenario where the students have been working on a project and they need to break apart the earnings from a specific project into, in this case, 4 different groups. They have budgeted money in 4 different groups, so they need to take the sum or total of the money that they've earned in this project, and they need to break it down for 4 different activities that they're going to be engaging in throughout the school year. So that's where the division part comes in. So definitely talking about division or any other mathematical topic in the context of everyday life and true application, especially something that's personalized for the students, is super important in this case. It helps with engagement and buy-in and really tends to give purpose to the activity at hand. Okay, so I've kind of set the stage with the type of activity. The students have earned some money. We have it all collected. It's in a big pot of money here. We've got all of our earnings kind of together, but now we need to kind of break this down so that we can see how much we have for each of the projects on our list. So we're going to help students, number one, before we ever start, I want them to understand the context of division, particularly what does it mean to divide something. And in this case, we're going to talk about it in kind of layman's terms about fair shares. And we're also going to talk a lot about remainders. And so vocabulary again comes to mind. I know in many of the videos that we do, we talk about the importance of vocabulary, bringing vocabulary in ahead of time so students know the terms that we're using during our activities. So in this case, terms like coins, money, value, of course, division, and remainders, super important. But then even numbers like when do we get remainders, it does have to do with odd and even numbers. So kind of bringing them back to some additional vocabulary that they may have even forgotten about a little bit. It might have been learned in a different grade level. And now we're going to need to use that again. In this case also, because we're putting this into the context of a real activity, we're also going to be needing to understand the quantity, value, and identification of coins and bills for this particular project. So the names of the coins is important here in this context. So those would be vocabulary words we would also focus on ahead of time. I always like to throw a little bit of literacy into the mix in addition to the vocabulary. So there happens to be this really great book called A Remainder of One. And I'll try to hold this up. It is connected to a voice output switch to tell the story. So there's a switch adapted story version. So this is just kind of a side note, gives a little bit of context for another application or another connection to the activity at hand, which again is division. What I love about this book, though, is it does talk about the remainders and it gives some context as to what remainders are and how it makes this group of ants in particular feel about there being remainders within the story. So that's all discussion for another day. Let's look at our activity at hand, which is the division part. So right now I'm just using a paper plate system, and I found that this is one of the best ways to kind of organize the materials. So if you have a whole class of students, let's say you have 8, 10, 12, however many students you have in your class, you can actually do division by having paper plates at each of the students' place or having students walk around the table and deposit the fair share, making sure that every single person gets in this case, a coin or a bill of a certain type on their plate. But before we can even walk around and give fair shares, we have this huge pile of coins and bills here that need to be sorted. So there is an order that we have to go in. So the first thing that we would need to do from a group standpoint, and I'm just going to show a little snippet of this and then I will transition to the next step. But students would need to be able to identify those specific coins and bills. So quarters, dimes, pennies, nickels, and dollars. And of course they would be each taking turns or digging into the plate, picking up some different money that is there, and then kind of getting it to the right place. Again, that sorting is important. Again, it reinforces the name of the coin. At the same time, you can start talking about the value of each coin. And in order to count some of the coins, we would need to know how to count by ones, fives, tens, and of course by 25 as well. Okay, so let's say the students go through, they do all of their sorting, and I'm going to sort a few in each category here, hopefully enough to give us the representation of the fair shares here. So hang with me one second while I do some sorting of my own. I need some kiddos to help me sort here. Okay, I'm going to put quite a bit of these on here. And quite a bit of these. All right. So let's pretend that all the coins are gone, that I have sorted them all. They all, whoops, have gone into the plates, onto the plates. And so now we're ready to do our fair shares. So instead of using the plates this time for keeping the coins in, I wish I would have brought a few more plates, but I'm just going to set these to the side. So I'm going to keep my coins together with the label. Now I need my 4 projects to be represented. And so we could again label these plates by what the projects are that the students are working on, where they need to know how much money they have for each one. You can kind of see I'm keeping these in small groups here. Okay, so now I have my 4 projects, and we could even again put like the image or something that gives context for the projects. Oops, gotta put my bills over here too. Okay. So when we're doing fair shares, and I don't need this plate at this moment, I'm only focusing on my 4 projects, okay? I'm going to start off with my highest value coin or bill, and the kids need to figure this out. Like, of all of these groups, our quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies, and dollars, which one has the highest value? And so that's, again, a lesson that you would go through, you would teach explicitly. And so let's say at the end of that, they say, well, the dollar is worth the most of all of these. If you would have other bills, of course, you would sort those as well. 20s, 5s, 10s, whatever you have, you would sort all of those and have those in piles as well. And so, of course, you would start at the highest one. So let's talk fair shares. And this is where the kids are truly like just giving items. It's almost like they're at a party and they are giving everybody a piece of cookie or a piece of cake or something like that until it's all gone. So in this case, we have to make sure that we always start at the same plate, and we have to make sure that we have enough to go around for everybody to get a fair share as we're dividing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just happen to have $8 here. So we'll go around one time, and the kids are actually going to be talking about it, and the kids would be putting down the money. And again, it's nice if the kids can walk around the table and put down one, and each student is responsible for, like, one person's in charge of the dollar bills, one charge, fives, etc. So far, so good. We've had opportunity to go around one time and give fair shares to everybody. Nobody was left out. Let's see if we can do that again with our second dollar. So we have 2 fair shares and no remainders. So at this point, we're good to go. We don't have to even do any banking. If we would have had a dollar bill or $2 or $3 bills left over, we would have had to take that money to the bank and trade it in for our next highest coin, which is quarters. And we would have to trade, like if we had $2, we would have to trade in those $2 to get 8 quarters. So then we can do our fair shares with our quarters. So I'm going to do the same process again. And I think the repetitive practice in this case is super important for students. It is nice for them to repeat the process so that they really start to understand what the division process looks like as long as we're giving fair shares, okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing with quarters, but I'm going to go a little bit quicker. Again, with kiddos, you would talk about making sure everybody has a fair share, kind of keep them visible at first so you can truly see. Now I'm down to the place where I don't have enough to give a third round. So I would take these 2 quarters back to the bank. I'm going to pretend I have my banking over here. I'm going to add those. I'm going to get dimes and nickels now. I'm adding those to my plates or to my piles. So I'm trading those in, and our next highest coin is the dime. So I get a student to give fair shares on the dimes every plate. I don't have too many of them. So at the end, I've given everybody 1. I still have my 1 remainder. I have to go banking again to get 2 nickels. And to add those, I don't have 2 nickels, but hypothetically I would add those to my nickels pile. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my nickels and do fair shares here. And I have 1 left, and I need 5 pennies at the bank to go into my penny pile. Let's say I've done that. I pull out my 5 pennies and I add them to the mix. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to go the same thing. Fair shares, fair shares, fair shares. And go around again. Oops. I can go a third time. And I have a remainder of 1. All right, so we truly could, if we knew exactly the amount we started with, we could put that into a division problem, including the decimal point. We could then take each of these, and in another video clip, I'll talk a little bit about a money mat, which is a great way, especially for students who need scaffolding on counting money, coins, and bills together. A different way to make sure that they can count all of these and truly get a money-based quantity with the decimal point in there. I'm not going to go into that today, but we would want the students to count up the money and know that every single plate has the same amount of money on it, and that's how we know we've given fair shares. So our division problem would be complete. We would write down the total, the divisor, dividend, and remainders within our problem on the board or whiteboard or whatever it would be. And then we help students understand 2 key vocabulary words. What is division? What does it look like? And what is a remainder? And can we go to the bank with a penny and get anything smaller than that? No, so this is our last stop. And so we just have to leave that remainder there. It's not gonna go anywhere. It'll just stay in our bank, okay? All right, I know that was a lot. It does help, I think, to break division down into something manageable and meaningful for students. Definitely teaching skills step by step is super important, especially for students who may be confused by the process of mathematics. And we certainly can show visibly and through the use of manipulatives how math works, and hopefully in real life contexts such as this. So hopefully this has been helpful. A strategy you may be able to tuck away if you teach division in your mathematics course or class or grade level. Hope this is helpful. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you all next time.